All righty, we are live. Welcome, YouTube land. We've been having some technical difficulties. Easy for me to say. We've been having some technical difficulties this morning. So we are going to see if we can resolve them and get them going, and we will go from there. All right. So I know that Catherine is trying to get her camera going, and we will see what happens. You know, with the technical issues, it's not a question of if you're going to have technical issues when you go live, but a question of when. And we are doing our best. Catherine, if you're ready, you can unmute yourself and come on back in if you like. And are you there? There you are.
I am live.
Good
Hello.
morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Rara is in the house.
She is.
All right.
So,
well, that's the way it goes, huh?
It is.
All right. So we're here. You know, you plan, you plan,
Yep.
and then life happens.
Life says something else.
All right. Well, this is very interesting. I'm really happy to be here. You know, sometimes you feel like you just jumped over a mountain, hiked. Okay, Joe, I'm going to mute myself for a second if you don't mind.
Yep, absolutely. So let me just.
We're going to have a guest joining.
Excellent. So it looks like we've been able to iron out our technical difficulties. You know, sometimes the technology says, I'm not going to work, and nothing you can do is going to make me work. And then all of a sudden you just keep trying it, restarting, you know, the old ever-present, turn it off, turn it all back on, unplug it, plug it back in, and all of a sudden it works. So that's kind of what we ended up doing this morning. Catherine's browser, for whatever reason, we were actually in StreamYard, and we were talking, and then all of a sudden it booted her out, and then she couldn't get back in. And now she's back in, and it looks like our guest is about ready to join us as well. So I'm going to bring her into the stream. And hello, Cheryl.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Catherine. Nice to see you. Hi, Rara.
Hello. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I like to make a grand entrance. I don't want to just walk in the room. I want to burst into the room, baby.
I love your style.
You know, really, you just can't take the New York City out of the girl.
It's beautiful. Listen, you know, it's funny because technology, while it's awesome, it isn't perfect, right? And so it happens. It's no big deal. It's all good.
Well, the funny thing is when you think you're not something like, well, that's not really my bag, that's not really my thing, you suddenly become very quick at figuring out something that there is no rule book or playbook for. So perseverance. Thank you so much for being here today with us. This is our first YouTube and our first YouTube live for BU podcast. Yep. And we're so excited that you agreed to be here with us and that you went through your schedule and cleared it for us. There was no way I was going to let anything get in the way of that, Cheryl.
So I love, you know, it's the thing with video is that, in my opinion, it's the closest thing we have to being there in person, right? I am a podcast fan. I love audio. I'm on Clubhouse. I'm excited about Clubhouse. You know, I love audio, but in my opinion, there's nothing quite like video, right? To be able to really connect. So I love it. And I am biased.
No, and
that's okay.
We're so happy that you are. Cheryl, let me give a little introduction, if you don't mind. First, okay, awesome. I'd like to introduce my partner, Dr. Energy, and I want us to give him a round of applause, for what he's done today. I have no idea if you lost 5 pounds in perspiration or not today, but I definitely did.
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for all that you do and holding up the fort and having the complete belief system that, you know, we can do it. Dr. Joe is my partner, and he's our co-host for 8 years, actually. And BU Network has a birthday this month. So when we go live again, it'll be after our birthday. It'll probably be in April. So I want to say thank you so much. This is going to be our second birthday for our podcast.
Maybe our next live will be on our birthday.
Oh, okay. So I shouldn't
maybe
that.
We'll see.
Okay, awesome. So and here we are, Dr. Energy, full of energy and surprises. And Dr. Joe is in Ontario, Ottawa, Ontario, in our nation's capital, as he likes to say it. And I wanted to introduce him today because he really held up the fort while I was logging on. So thank you so much for doing what you do,
no
for being here.
Thank you. And as everybody knows, Rah is in the house, and she's in Niagara on the Lake, about an hour and a half southwest of Toronto. And Cheryl's also in Ontario. We're not going to give it away unless she wants us to.
I'm in southwestern Ontario.
Okay, southwestern Ontario too, right? So, and Catherine is in Niagara on the Lake by way of, let me see if I can get it right, Etobicoke, Richmond Hill, Newmarket, Montreal, and then originally from Brooklyn, New York. So you might hear that New York accent come out every once in a while.
Yes, there's a few other cities that we lived in, but thank you.
I probably missed a couple.
I think 12 or something in the last 13 years. And I would like to thank you so much. I'd like to introduce our guest, Sheryl Plouffe. Sheryl is an entrepreneur, an international speaker, a former Canadian TV broadcaster. Sheryl has been seen by millions over the course of her 25-year career in news, media, and has produced thousands of videos. So today was no surprise of what could happen. Sheryl has broadcast over 20,000 hours of live stream television. This is our first hour, Cheryl, and over 20,000 hours. It's like going through childbirth again. Oh my gosh. Cheryl lives and works in Ontario, Canada. I just brought you right back to the delivery room, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
I'm excited. It's funny because, to think about where this all began for me, it started when I was a teenager. And by the time I was 18, I was hosting a cable television program in the city that I lived in British Columbia at that time. So I've been doing this for a very long time. And so, those 20,000 hours have happened over, obviously, the course of my professional career.
Well, Cheryl, let's talk about what just happened. How do you handle a situation where it just, we're ready, we're good, and then suddenly, bam, something happens. So how do you handle that?
Well, I think if I think back to my years as a broadcaster, when literally anything could happen because it was live broadcasting, usually what happens is you do have some type of plan B. And typically that is going to stem from, it's not so much the technical part. As a broadcaster, there are technicians and there are people and producers whose role it is to get the show up technically. So that's beyond, our scope. As broadcasters, what we're charged to do is be the presenters of news and information and story and insights and wisdom around a specific topic and subject matter. So our role is to have always a plan B about what we can talk about in that case. So if everything went wrong, which it has happened, we definitely have had place, when I was a weather broadcaster, the maps don't load, whatever the case may be. You have to have a plan B and have something that you can talk about. And I think that's really where the skill set of extemporaneous speaking comes into play, is this ability to think on your feet, to be able to ad lib, to be able to speak about a subject at will. And that's really what broadcasting does and did for me.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to go back to the minute where we were, and you heard us in the stage or backstage as we were, getting me on, going through the steps. I believe that not giving up is really important. Not succumbing to, well, this is greater than I could imagine. I wasn't going to accept that. We know this about me, and today is proof. Like, I'm not accepting that. These are the steps. These are the steps that should work, and there is a way to do it. And perseverance is important. So, to somebody who's starting something for the first time, as we are right now, with someone as seasoned as yourself with 20,000 hours, I'm sure you just thought to yourself, "Yep, stuff happens."
Absolutely.
It's not, it wasn't planned, but of course we didn't want to inconvenience you and your time and your schedule. And that was a driving force, the desire to remain in integrity and authenticity, to not let something like technology get in the way of what you have done and what you are doing to be here today for our audience. So tell us a little bit about, like, what drives you to be on a podcast that's our first hour and you have 20,000 hours? Like, how do we thank you for that publicly?
Oh, you don't need to. I love talking about marketing. I love speaking about video. I love to help people expand their mindset around video and really what it can do for them professionally, how they can use it to grow their business. So it's funny because even though you have experienced some technical challenges this morning, I think sometimes we make it out to be a bigger thing than it is to the other person. Like, to me, I didn't really sweat it at all. I was like, oh, this is technology. This is what happens. It's all good. Happy to reschedule, happy to work through it, happy to do whatever comes. So I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, be perfect in so many ways. I'm not just talking about this show or this podcast, but just in life and in business. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, make it perfect and nothing can go wrong, but things do go wrong. I think it's the ability, as you said earlier, Rara, it's the perseverance that matters. It's the ability to roll with the punches and to be resilient in the face of everything not going 100% all the time. That's entrepreneurship.
Thank you. And it really helps when you have someone that you care about, caring about you being our guest, caring about the integrity that Dr. Joe and I have to do what we say and say what we do. The filters might not be on, the lighting might be, but we said we would be here. And so, Joe, do you have your bracelet on that says, because I said I would? Right. So we live by this because I said I would, and we said it, so we're doing it. Not to mention all the hours it took in preparation. So, we want to make sure that we're delivering. And so some of the questions I want to ask you about your experience are, like, what scares you about this business?
Wow. What scares me about this business, I think it's people who, it's when you know that what you have to offer can truly help transform someone, whether it be in their level of confidence, in their level of skill set around, in my case, subject matter being video, but substitute any niche, any industry, in any field. It's when you know that you can actually help transform, and then people are resistant to change. They are, staying stuck in a place because they haven't maybe done the work necessary on themselves as far as personal development is concerned, to be able to see things in a new way. So it's frustrating. It's not even so much that it's scary as much as it's just frustrating when I can help you. I can help you. If only you could open your mind or see things in a different way. Be willing, to take those scary steps. So the fear isn't so much on my side. I think it's more on their side.
Right. Yes. Good point. And for your perseverance and you starting every day the way that you do, for you knowing after 20,000 hours, you'll be at 40,000 hours eventually, right? What excites you to be there or to be here?
Well, I think it's potential. I think when you're working with people and you see untapped potential, I happen to work with mostly people who are coaches, consultants, typically people who are at or approaching midlife. They're looking at the second half of their life and saying to themselves, is this it? What more is there? They want to contribute to society. They want to make an impact or leave a legacy in some way through their work. As a coach or consultant, as a speaker, as an author, I tend to work with people who are purpose-driven, mission-oriented type people. And so it's exciting to me to be able to work and maybe guide people to doing their best work, to helping them get their work out in front of more people through the work that I do. So that's what excites me, is the ability to help people push through barriers, push through challenges and obstacles that they are facing and that they've maybe still just putting in their own way, and helping them break down those barriers to get on video. I can give you some examples, like with our live stream challenge. We do a go live challenge every month. And, we have people who've never stepped foot in front of the camera before, or people who have stepped foot in camera, but just didn't really know what to say or do. And so you see people taking these steps, one foot in front of the other. To me, that's exhilarating. To me, that's exciting, because I know what that means. I think back to my years as a teenager when I was taking my first few steps, and how video really transformed my entire life at that point. So I feel strongly that video can transform people's businesses too.
Oh, you're so right about that. Cheryl, do you have like a secret little test that you want people to pass that you don't necessarily tell them, but you're looking at them and you're thinking, yes, that indicates that they can go to the next step with you?
Well, I call it the breakthrough. There's this point that happens where people reach a point where they're able to, without much thought or preparation or extensive preparation, they're able to pick up their phone and go live, where they don't stay stuck in perfectionism and, oh, I don't know if I should do this, and what will people think? And I don't have my topic, and I don't have a script. When they get to the point where they're like, I've got an idea, I have something to say, I'm going to say it. Like, to me, that's the breakthrough. Because once you reach that point, there's no stopping you, because now you have the ability to communicate your message anytime, anywhere, because these devices are not phones. Let's be real. These are computers, and this is our lifeline to the world. So I think that's, to me, what I see.
It's funny that you mentioned that about the phones being, right? The phones being a lifeline to the world. One of the other creators that both Kath and I follow, Impartial Geek, David Foster, he talks about, people all in his streams always say, oh, you're so focused on the camera. He's got an iPhone 12 Pro. And he says, you're always so focused on the camera. He goes, well, I don't use the phone as a phone. He says, I'm lucky if I use it for a call once a month. It's all about content creation. It's all about, social media, that type of stuff. It's a business tool rather than an actual phone.
100%. 100%. I rarely take phone calls that are not pre-scheduled or that are in my calendar. I don't, right, because my phone is always on mute, because I'm always either creating a video or going live, and I don't want the phone ringing.
Exactly.
So I very, very rarely use my phone as a phone.
Right.
This is, as you said, it's a business tool, social media, content creator. It's funny because even my YouTube channel in 2020, I think nearly every video, if not all of the videos that I did, all 52 weeks of the year, were produced on this iPhone 10. And
wow.
1.5 million video views later, I can't complain.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about social media. Can you tell us how you approach that? So let's say somebody is seasoned and they want to up their game a little bit, or someone is, like you say, walking into the room for video for the first time. How do you approach social media? How do you sort of dissect that? And is it separate? Is each platform different for you, or do you generalize that? I know you're very successful at that, so perhaps you'll share some of that technique with us.
Well, for me as a video strategist, I like to have a working knowledge of all the social platforms that are out there, at least the main ones, because I want to have some knowledge and be able to guide people as to how they might utilize video as it pertains to that platform. So my case is a little bit different in that I feel like it's my responsibility as a video strategist to have some working knowledge of them all. But for the people who I coach and who I train and who I produce videos for, I would always start by saying, where are the people that you want to attract? There is no point in putting all of this time and energy and effort into Twitter if your audience isn't hanging out there. So it's marketing 101. It's starting at that place where it's like, who is my ideal client? Who is and understanding their behaviors and their patterns, as it pertains to social media, we have to figure out where are they hanging out. We might determine that they hang out on LinkedIn and Facebook. Great. Well, that's a place, that's where we start. YouTube, though, is a slightly different animal in the sense that nearly everyone in the world uses YouTube, right? So, and it is treated a little bit differently in my mind because there's more strategy involved with YouTube and there's more production required. So YouTube aside, if we're talking about all the other platforms, your Facebook, your Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those, then that's what I would do is I would say, where are your people hanging out? That's where you need to be.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely finding that there's more production involved with YouTube and definitely more strategy, with, creating good thumbnails, getting your tags right, your titles right, so that the algorithm, people often say, oh, how can I hack the algorithm? And I heard somebody on another stream saying, the algorithm's actually there to serve you, that you don't need to hack it. The algorithm wants to like you, so help it like you by providing that valuable content that people want to watch with the appropriate tags and titles, and you're going to get suggested to the right audience, right? 'Cause I was watching a recent stream and they were saying that and a lot of times, I think it was one Nick Nimmin or D Nimmin, I can't remember which one, was saying that, or Justin Brown, one or the other, they were saying that like 90% of their views are coming from non-subscribed people. So they're not subscribed to the YouTube channel. It's all suggested videos from the algorithm. So it's almost like people subscribing to your channel aren't as big a deal anymore as it used to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the majority of the views that I've had with some of my most successful videos have been from suggested. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Cheryl, do you have a pet project that you would like to share with us? Like something you might call like your baby, the project that you really still hold close to your heart? Not to say that the others take second seat.
Do you mean in terms of the things that we offer in our company, or?
Something that's just near and dear to your heart, something that you really feel passionate about?
Well, I mean, I feel passionate about supporting people to grow their businesses, right? And so I'm always looking at ways that I can do that. So for example, every month we have a challenge, where we have people coming in to, take that step and build that momentum and really start doing some live videos. We help them, support them with prompts and with training and tutorials, and a community and some coaching to be able to help them to do that. Like in many ways, that is my pet project because I feel like that's where there's the most maybe work needed to help people overcome those fears. There are a lot of fears around video. There are a lot of people who have tons of potential if only they could overcome the fear. And so that's, I think in many ways, that is my pet project. That's what I like to do.
Right. Sorry. It's like the people who are not comfortable yet. Like they're nervous about it. And your pet project is to help them to relax about it.
Right.
Yeah. I think that is, definitely what it is for sure. Because they want to make a difference. They know that they're excellent. They know that they have what it takes to do the work that they're here to do. They just don't have their marketing dialed in yet to reach those people. That's the only difference. So it's all there. They've had those, they've either sold or have a very strong proof of concept. They maybe sold some consulting hours. Maybe they have done a beta round of a program or something. There's something there that they know I'm onto something. Now I need to reach more of those people who this is appropriate for and start those conversations, which is really what we do, is helping them say, let's use video to do that because it is the closest thing we have to being there in person. So let's leverage that. And the whole world is online and everything is virtual and it's not going away. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say that, I've seen, and I'm not sure how you run the program with your clients going live. I've seen some people, some other coaches use like a Facebook group, but it's a private group. So the people who are all in that program at the same time go live into that group just to get, used to running the technology and being live without it being, and it still creates a safe place because everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Well, we do, yes, we do a private Facebook group, but we do it a little bit differently in that we say to the challengers to go live on any platform of their choice for a minimum of a minute per day for 30 consecutive days. And the idea being that we want them to start going out on the platform that's actually going to give them the momentum. So then what they can do, and it's an option, they can share that into the group if they want us in the group to help the community, to help maybe give some feedback or whatever.
Right.
But the idea is not that they go live just to the members of the group.
Mm-hmm.
We actually want to take that a step further and say, it's time for you to get out in front of the people. It's not enough to just get in front of us as a community.
Right.
We are trying to tee them up to get used to we're trying to train them to become content creators. And the reality is, if you're just going live within your small community, it's the next step to that is actually going out to the platform.
Right.
And there's no time like the present to do that.
So you might as well make it productive practice, right?
Yeah.
And a minute at a time. So is there a strategy behind the 1 minute?
Yeah. Well, a minimum of a minute. So we say that because we have people who are terrified. We have people who are really, really nervous about doing this. And if we say it's a minimum of a minute, they can wrap their heads around that and go, okay, it's just a minute. I think I can do that. And a minute goes by pretty quickly. But there may be some people who are perhaps a little bit more seasoned or maybe not as afraid. They're just more the people who just don't know what to say in their videos. So we say a minimum of a minute per day. So that's, in our estimation, if you do that for 30 consecutive days, you will get momentum. You will feel more confident. You're going to improve your speaking skills. No doubt about that. And the people who do decide to do longer live streams, and generally that does happen. Most of the time, I'd say on average, a live stream will be 2 minutes to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, somewhere in there. And we provide them with prompts, so they're not stuck with what to talk about.
Right. That's excellent for, like you say, for someone, even if someone is seasoned, just do something for 30 days straight. Like whether it's, a minute or 5 minutes, be consistent. I think that's another really big key in having an audience, right? The audience is counting on you. I'm on the receiving end of what you do in terms of your communication because I've signed up with things for you. And I love your constant communication.
Thank you.
Love that you're giving me a stream of information and that you're always prompting me to read and look and discover. I mean, I don't miss a sentence or a word in the email messages that I get from you because I don't want to. And I think it starts with the connection. How do you make a connection with people so that they can be loyal fans like us, like myself?
I think it comes down to one word, and that word is to care. You have to care about other people and have empathy and really be in this for the right reasons. I'm not in this. Certainly, I want to build a successful business, and obviously that is going to impact, my life and what I can do in terms of contribution to society, all of that. But at the end of the day, I really care about other people, and I don't think you can fake that. I don't think that's something that you can fake. And so I'm not a person who's out there renting Lamborghinis and posing with, renting the mansion for the weekend just to take my brand photos. It's really more about caring for people.
Right. We say caring is sharing in our podcast. Cheryl, have you ever thought about, if I could, I would? Let's talk about it. We'll go around the room. I'll start with you. Okay. So, Dr. Energy, you're next. Let's just think about that. Unrehearsed. If I could, I would. What would you do, Cheryl?
I think it's something maybe a little bit more personal. I would say if I could take my entire family to Hawaii for 2 weeks, I would. And it's not even really that I would, it's actually something that I will. You know what I mean? Like I want to think about it more from the standpoint of setting that in motion and putting some words to it and kind of putting it out there makes it become more real. So I'm not a person who necessarily sits back and goes, oh, I'm a dream, I'm going to dream about this. If I have a goal, like I'm going to want to put life to that. I would like to do that. I think that's something that's been in the back of my mind for a little while now.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Do you write things down? Do you track it? Do you use any type of do you see it, type it, read it, put it on the wall? Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, no, I'm not a vision board type of person, although maybe I should be. I don't have a vision board for that, but it's something I probably should create. I'm not against vision boards, and I think that would probably help me to put, but these are just thoughts in my head. We have for a while now. I was just sort of thinking, because my family, like my family on my side, they live in Northern Ontario, and it's just like to go to a place like Hawaii would be like, super foreign in a very cold climate. And so that's just something that, if I could, I would do that. And I may well do that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We use a technique where we put this information in our calendar and we put a date to it. If I could, I would, and we put it in there. So try that. My suggestion is I invite you to take a piece of paper, write it down right now. And then let's do it. Let's do it, Cheryl. Let's bridge the gap. Go from the thought right to the action. And let's put down what you just said. Take my family to Hawaii, and then give it a date. Don't ask everybody what works for them. Don't ask them what's good for them. Don't even think about what's good. Just put a date there, and then we're going to check back with you on that. And put that piece of paper, put that book somewhere where you can see it and you can look at it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Oh, cool. Thank you. I appreciate you doing
Thanks
that.
for playing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Dr. Energy, if I could, I would. What's your story?
Lots of stories. If I could, right now, go on a ski trip to Europe, I would. I remember way back in high school in 19... we had scheduled a trip through the school to go to Austria and ski at several resorts, including Kitzbühel. Now, for anybody who's an alpine skier, Kitzbühel is sort of the mecca, especially if you're into downhill ski racing. It is sort of like the grandfather of all downhill races. And the trip, we needed to have a minimum of 10 people paid for the trip. And we had 10 people until the day before we had to make the payment. And all of a sudden, one person dropped out, and we didn't have time to find it because it all the number of people hinged on getting a specific deal, a specific price, included our flights, all the transfers, lift tickets at all the different hills and everything. And I've never been able to get back there since. So if I could, that is the trip. That is the thing that I would do.
I like that.
And Rara, what about you? If you could, what would you do, be, or say?
I would have a magic carpet of hope. And I would want that magic carpet of hope to raise a vibration of all of those people that are near and dear to me first, and those who are near, and then those who are further. So anyone who comes within a similar close little vibration of me has that magic carpet of hope to raise their vibration.
Wow, it's awesome. I feel selfish now because mine was so
I do
much
too.
about me.
I do too.
I'm operating on a magic carpet.
Oh, man. I got to go back and change.
I wake up, I stand on my magic carpet. I'm like, where are we going today, ladies and gentlemen? My feet aren't always on the ground. So,
right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for playing that game. I think that's kind of fun. Cheryl, let me ask you, because you are so used to having the controls. What would you ask Dr. Energy and I today as being on our first podcast, our first live YouTube? Take it over. Ask us something if you wish.
Well, I mean, I think as it pertains to what I do and some of the challenges that I see other people facing who are, in my audience. And it is about fear. It's how can I help better support those who are fearful of starting video when I know that this is the key to unlocking a potential that is, untapped, and that they can reach as many people as they want. And the world is global and we have phones and we can reach anybody anywhere. If only they could, get over the fear and that getting started piece. So I guess that would be my question would be, what could I do to better support them to get started?
Catherine, why don't you take the answer for that first?
I like to work with behavior. I hope I'm going to answer you the way that you are speaking about it. I like to work with behavior modification. So what can I do is what you want me to answer, right, Cheryl? Instilling confidence. What I would like to do is be an example and open a door and a window and have the possibility, create an opportunity for those to know that everything is possible. I believe setting an example is really important. And it doesn't mean being the ideal anything. It means setting an example, going over the edge, having a malfunction that people learn from, letting life just happen. I'm never speechless. What's happening? Because I'm thinking of so many things right now. Being transparent. How I could help is by being me and letting people see exactly how things are handled by me in real time. I think it's important for people to know what's going on. Because things are not what they appear to be. We get dressed up, we say things. Like you say, sometimes people like maybe hide behind a brand or take pictures and that's the brand. But what's the real deal? What's the real truth? If the truth be known, what's the real truth you'd want someone to know about you that you've been keeping a secret about? I think it's important to let the cat out of the bag and let people really see what the real deal is.
I love that. That's true. Yeah, that is true. I think I like to think that I have made a concerted effort to downplay a little bit of the perfectionism that was prevalent in my previous profession, right? Like when you're on TV, yes, you do have to, there's a certain standard. You got to look a certain way and be a certain shape or weight or style or color or whatever, I don't mean skin color. I mean color.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so I think you have to fit in a certain box, and
Right.
I've been trying to, I think, make an effort to be more approachable, shall we say.
Right. Thank you. Dr. Energy. What about you? Is Joe going to answer the same question or do you have a different question for him?
No, same question. I'm
Okay.
curious. Yeah.
So for me, I really like the idea of Cheryl, what you mentioned about supporting people. And, we're here to, cheerlead, hold people's hand. If you've got something that you're afraid of, you need some help getting something done, that's what we're here to do. And we're also will, with love, push you out of the nest a little bit. Both Catherine and I really like the metaphor, the image of the eagle, and how the eagle pushes the chicks out of the nest to learn how to fly, but then flies underneath them to catch them. If they fall, bring them back up to the nest, and then push them out again. So we're there for the support and helping you learn to fly on your own, because ultimately you can do all the research you want. And trust me, I've done a lot of research on YouTube and I'm doing videos and all of that kind of thing. But ultimately, you eventually, as you said, Cheryl, have to press go live and get out there. And so this is kind of what Catherine and I do for ourselves, is we just jump in there and go do it. And, as you mentioned at the beginning, that extemporaneous or off the cuff energy, we just go with it and adjust on the fly the best that we can. And so if we can be an example of that for other people, that it's not about perfection in getting something out there, it's about creating the connection with your audience and with your tribe, with your people, build the connection.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm 100% believe in that. It is about connection. There's no doubt about that. It's not about perfection. I mean, I think there's a fine line too. I mean, of course, we want to put our best foot forward, and but I think there's a difference between putting your best foot forward and striving for something that's unattainable, right? So fine, you want to, like today, I mean, like this is just my hair, just, natural, whatever. I'm very much a come as you are type of person. Like I don't really get all, some days I feel like wearing more makeup than other days. And some days I feel like doing my hair and some days I don't. Uh, that's just how I roll. But I'm not doing it because I'm trying to achieve some level of perfection. It's just because I feel like doing it for myself.
Mm.
I don't strive for that type of perfection. I just think, okay, well, how could I connect with people today? They don't care if my hair is naturally curly or not. They really don't.
And you look beautiful, by the way, if we didn't tell you before we got on, we'll tell
Thanks.
you now. And there's something that you made me think about. I think about this video about the admiral who talks about making the art of making our bed, or why
every
we
morning,
make
yeah.
our bed, right? So there are things that I do before we go live, before I have a call, a Zoom, whatever it is, to keep myself in the right frame of mind, or to put myself in the right frame of mind, or to allow myself to have a new frame of mind. It's not that I want to keep it in a box. So I need to have my gratitude time. I need to have my time to write. I actually write, and I write an I am and color it with stickers and markers every morning. I started this 2 months ago, actually, and I have a book right in my bridge room where we are on my coffee table. And I do this every morning, and I write, I am. And then something amazing happens as a result of that. Like, talk about writing it down. Like, I am. That's simple. And then I put color to it. And the ritual of taking care of me and the self-care, I was thinking about what you're saying, you show up as you feel comfortable. The ritual of taking care of me is so important before I hop on to anything, because I might be in my head rehearsing something, but I still need to look after my own needs as a human being so that I can put others first and care for them. If I deplete my own energy, then I wouldn't really have it for others. And those who work with us know that you can reach us at like 6 a.m. And I worked at 11:30, 11:45 last night. And there are times that I'm working till 1 a.m. And I love what I do. And I need energy for that. So I need to do what I have to do during the course of the day. And you made me think about that, because in being us, it's making sure that we take care of us. What do they say in the airplanes, right? Like, we haven't taken them lately, but put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And that's the way that you can give your best. So are there some tips or tricks that you do to keep yourself at your best so that you can give all that you do to your clients, your customers, your family, your friends?
Well, I mean, in terms of morning routine, I'm not someone who has an extensive morning routine, with the exception of I try to think about gratitude when I'm first waking up. While I'm in bed, like I'm lying in bed and I'm coming around and I wake up and I immediately move into what am I grateful for. And so I don't write it down as much as I think about it. And then I pull my feet out and put them in my slippers and off I go. Morning routines. I mean, we get our son off to school, and then my husband and I spend some time in the morning just having coffee and chit-chatting and kind of getting, figuring out what we're doing for the day and just chatting, just talking. I love that routine. To me, that's relaxing, and it's a great way for me to set up the rest of my day. But I don't have anything that's extensive in that sense. Exercise, we would like to go to the gym, or we will work out in our basement room downstairs when we're in lockdown and quarantine, or we'll go for a walk. So I do try to incorporate exercise as much as possible, especially in the morning. But there is another thing that I do. This isn't so much pertaining to me personally, but something that I do before I conduct, let's say, a coaching call specifically, whether it be a private coaching call or a coaching call like in a group for people of the challenge or people in our accelerator program or whatever the case may be. I usually do a little prayer to God, and I will just say, help me to be my best. and help me to recall stories, or help me to recall information that's going to help them today, or help me to, to offer my best self to them on this call. And it doesn't have to be a long thing, but I usually will do some type of prayer, silent prayer, before I do those type of calls.
Nice.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Energy, what about you?
Yeah, I have a bit of a morning routine. The first thought that I generally have, conscious thought that I have when I in the morning is, who do I get to serve today? Who is going to show up in my life that I can serve and serve at the best of my ability. That's the first thing. Then my feet hit the floor. I make the bed even before I go off and shower and all that kind of stuff. And I usually then do some movement and some meditation, a little bit of yoga, just to get my spine moving, get the juices flowing, as it were. A bit of meditation, and then usually a cup of coffee after that. And I'm fortunate that my office is close enough to where I live. I can walk to my office in about 15 minutes or so, and through all of what's been going on, we've been, as a chiropractor, we've been essential services at first for emergency services, and now we've been still open through all of this. So I've been fortunate to be able to get to go to my office and serve people every day. Every time I put my hands on somebody, it's how can I make the right adjustment in the right spot at the right time that will help this person be all of who that they are. And that's sort of that silent prayer, Cheryl, that you were talking about how can we be the best, show up to be the best for the world rather than the best in the world. I really like that sentiment. So that's sort of how my days go.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. There is one other thing I wanted to ask Cheryl, because you have so many amazing programs that you're talking about, to tell our audience, like, if they wanted to go somewhere and get you right away, where's the quickest place they could go to be with you, because they're not waiting a minute longer. They have to have you.
Well, I mean, the best place is just go to my website, right? You get me on my website, CherylPlouffe.com. We have a host of resources there at the top. There's resources I recommend, and a whole host of different things are in there, including the ability for people to just, book a call with me. Sometimes people just want to have an hour of time with me and talk about their strategy, talk about what may be lacking in their marketing strategy and where video fits in, and just having those conversations. Sometimes people want to book time to map out their strategy, so we can do that as well. I like to actually do a mind map of here's what a strategy might look like for you. So we can use the time in a variety of different ways. But that's kind of the fastest way to get me, is to just go to the website and look at that. We also have links, of course, there to our next challenges. And those are great ways to get in touch. We also have community at CherylPlouffe.com. So if ever I want to email somebody, I want to know more about where I can be or where I should go and what are the resources, just emailing our community manager is also a great option.
And Cheryl, for the mindset of the potential client, or the client that's already with you, or somebody that's thinking of joining you, they're thinking, how do I do this? What do I do? How do I approach this? Is this personal growth? Is this marketing? How do I put my money aside for this? Do I have to go into my line of credit? Let's talk about, if someone wants to be really successful at obtaining professional services to be themselves and kick it up a notch, should they look at having a marketing budget? How should they approach the financial aspect of that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that sometimes we are given this impression that starting a business doesn't cost any money at all, but that's actually untrue. It does cost something to start a business. Just like it would cost you money to start a brick and mortar business, it still does cost something to start even an online business. Now, it doesn't have to be at the same level of investment, but there has to be something set aside. That could be like, listen, you might need to have a phone, a good phone that has a lot of capacity if this is going to be your business center. this doesn't come for free. You have to pay for these phones, right? So it's like whatever that equipment is, or whatever those tools are that you may need, you might need to invest in a coach. You might need to invest in someone who can mentor you to help you get to where you want to go faster, because the cost of not knowing what you don't know is more than you know. So it's finding the people that resonate with you, that finding the people you connect with and saying, I'm going to invest in growing my business and getting the shortcut to where I need to be, because that is the problem. The problem is you don't know what you don't know. So the pitfalls are there, and you want to learn from the other people who've gone through it so that you can avoid that. Well, there's an investment usually with that. So I think there's this misconception that starting a business, even online, is free. Well, not necessarily. So yes, I do think it's important to have at least some type of budget. It's not to say it has to be a gigantic budget to start, but there does need to be something at the early stages.
Right. That's such a good point, because sometimes people will think that, well, I'm starting this kind of business, and so since I don't need a building and I don't need this, I can sort of wing it and see what happens. But planning to have those finances available and have the mindset that we need to invest in ourselves is a really important mindset. So we're not struggling with our inner child about, I want it, but I don't want to pay for it, or, where do I get the money for it? Or,
well, I mean, I think it is a money mindset. I often hear about money mindset issues. That's totally true. I mean, you have to really rethink your relationship to money. And I have to admit, do I have it 100% dialed in? No, I think I'm still a work in progress too. There is a lot that you have to wrap your head around in terms of money and investment as it relates to business and entrepreneurship. If you really want to grow, you're going to have some type of budget, So when I'm working with people, coaches and consultants, typically the early stage people are people who they have a solid proof of concept, but they're not necessarily at the stage yet in terms of cash flow to be able to move up into our virtual video production, for example. They're not there yet. That's okay. Start with where you're at. Keep working, keep investing. That's why we focus so much on the live streaming, because it circumvents this necessity for post-production and editing, which typically is the problem. That's always the bottleneck of the situation, of the process. So that's why we focus on live streaming, so we can get people up and going at a really low investment to get going, right? Eventually, though, as you make money and as you get clients, then yes, you're going to want to reinvest that money into growing your business. And that's when we see people who are moving into agency work or outsourcing, or people who want to have some done for you services to leverage their time. And that's where our virtual video production comes into play. But we don't necessarily expect that people who are at the early stages are ready for that yet. Some are, but not everyone.
I love the done for you services. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, that's a really important point that you make there, Cheryl, about the mindset and that how none of us are perfect, right? We all have our stuff that we're working on. And Rara and I, when we started doing our podcast, we made a conscious decision to start with free tools so that we could have the skills and the knowledge around the free tools for people who are getting started, that we could legitimately talk to them, say, hey, here's where we started. And as we move through the process, we eventually go and moving into the paid tools. And also, for some people, they may start doing live, or they might start doing a podcast and get 3 or 4 months into it, or 6 months into it, and then go, this is... It's more trouble than it's worth to me. I'd rather focus my energy over here. And then you haven't spent all that money to find out, bought a subscription for a year for something, and then all of a sudden it goes wasted. So we made this conscious strategy, so easy for me to say, strategy to start with some of the free tools. And you will hit up against the limits of free tools fairly quickly as you grow. And that's a good problem to have, because then that tells you where you need to expand and where you need to go next.
There are some great tools out there. There are a lot of, if the marketer in question has done their work properly, they are providing super valuable free tools. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that there's something to be said. A lot of these free tools are fantastic.
Yeah.
But what I think where the problem sometimes occurs is that people want to cobble together their business
Yes.
with only free tools. So I think it's more of a case of some free tools, yes, but also some investment so that you have an understanding of, again, I think it's more about investing. Early stages would be like your brand strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, your brand business strategy and then marketing strategy.
Right.
Very good points. What Joe and I do really well is we can find something and detect what is congruent.
We break things.
Yeah,
basically.
what is congruent and then what isn't, and then we see, can we fix it? And like I'll say we're really good at it, and Joe likes to say that I'm really good at breaking things, and then for me it's I can test it to the umpteen degree, and that's just speaks to who I am and how I do things. Like I have to know how it works. I don't necessarily want to build it or rebuild it. I just need to know how it works and what is the true capacity.
Yeah.
If a tool says it does this, then I am going to get it to where it says it does it. And if it doesn't, I want to know why does it say it's supposed to. That's just, I said I would. What did your bracelet say? I'm so sorry.
Because I said I would.
Because I said I would. So if the tool says it's going to do it, then I am going to
better
find
do it.
that point or that tipping point where it tries not to do it.
Right.
We have a lot of fun with that. So Cheryl, those were 3 good tips that you talked about: investing in marketing and investing in the brand. A good place to start. You said there were three tools, 3 tips: developing marketing, developing our brand, and you said some free tools are good. And then you mentioned one other?
Well, I mean, I think there's some. From a strategic perspective, what are the areas of strategy that need to be addressed as you really start to set out to become, let's say, a coach or consultant, or turn your expertise into a course or a coaching program or a mastermind or membership or what it is? It is determining some fundamental things, right? So you have to have a brand strategy. You have to have a business strategy. In other words, what is the offer? Right? It's like what is and what are the pricing of those offers? And is that really going to be aligned to the brand strategy? And then the third thing is the marketing strategy to grow the business. So I think there's these 3 fundamental areas of strategy that need to be addressed if you want to really kind of be successful, right?
Awesome. Brand, business, and marketing strategy. 3 super great hashtags, Dr. Energy. Brand strategy, business strategy, marketing strategy. That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Cheryl, is there a final message that you would like to share with our audience? Because we would like to. Sorry.
Yep. Just before you get to that, I just wanted to share with everybody that you get to have a double dose of Cheryl this week, because our previous podcast that we actually recorded audio only is actually dropping this week as well over on our website, and you could grab that over at b-u.network b-u.network/podcast. Of course, I was unprepared with a banner for that one, so I don't have one. I'm trying to run everything in the background here, learning as we go live, right?
It's all good.
So
see if I give you enough time to make that while I run into start with our BU final moment.
So I'll do that while you and Cheryl start in on the BU final moment.
Okay, I'll explain what this part is to our audience. So we have a part of our show, a segment that we call our BU final moment, and in this BU final moment, we find out what just came up for us. So first I was going to ask you, do you have any message that you want to give to our audience? And then once you answer that, what would be your BU final moment? Joe, we gave you enough time to create the banner. Then what would be your BU final moment? And that would be, ta-da, success. What came up for you in this podcast today that you would like to share with us? So was there a message that you'd like to give to our audience, and then your BU final moment?
I think the message I want to share to the audience is that, and it's really what I call the ACE model. So the authenticity, content, and exposure. And that's really what is fundamentally working now and will continue to work. So really thinking about those areas, right? Am I being myself? And it's interesting because we're at the BU network. Be you, be yourself, be authentic. Authenticity, content needs to be valuable, purpose-driven, valuable, goodwill content, and getting away from this like promotional content stuff. Nobody wants to be sold to. So I think it's authenticity content and exposure, meaning putting that out there for the world to see. It's not enough to just record it on your phone and be too nervous to put it out there. It's time to get the message heard. In terms of my moment that really stood out to me in this conversation was what we talked about earlier with the idea of leading by example. And that's something that I try my best to do and to exemplify this idea of leading by example. And I'm a work in progress. I'm by no means perfect, but I do strive to continue to do that. And I think you reinforce that for me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl. It's really such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. You know, I have a little bit of a girl crush on you, so thank you for that.
I have a girl crush on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Energy, what is your BU final moment?
My BU final moment, I really like the leading by example. And Cheryl, you had mentioned about saying that little prayer, setting that intention of being able to bring all of who you are for the benefit of your clients. I remember having in a seminar with one of my mentors and coaches, and he said at the beginning of the seminar on the weekend, so it was a 3-day seminar, and he said, I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal this weekend to help you get what it is you want to get out of this weekend. And there's about 75 of us, and we were all sitting there thinking, okay, great, it's all his resources. And then through the course of the weekend, he actually had a microphone running around the room. So anytime something would come up, he would use everybody in the audience as a resource. So he was using all of the resources at his disposal to help an individual who had a question or who had a challenge or a concern. So we were drawing on all the wisdom in the room rather than just one person. So it was less ego-centric from the stage and more group-focused and focused on getting the best result for our client. And at the end of the day, that's what's important, getting our clients what it is they want and need rather than stroking our own ego. So that's my BU final moment.
I agree. I think that's awesome. I mean, I think when you call upon those, I don't know what the word might be, but those faculties, right? It's like, come and speak through me, like work through me. Let me be the conduit or the catalyst to doing this work. Right. That's how I like to approach it.
Beautiful. Rara, what's your BU final moment today?
Well, I finally stopped sweating from not being able to get on at the moment that we planned. So my BU final moment is to really show up and to have a connection. The connection that I feel with Cheryl and with you today, while I thought there might be a problem being caused on my energetic end, I knew that you would both be there and hold space for that. And the connection that I have with both of you allowed me to persevere and not freak out, because I felt that you were both there holding that space. So I would invite everyone watching to create solid connections and relationships, because you never know when you need to lean on them, as I did today, leaning on the two of you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Amazing.
And don't we all need connection now more than ever?
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely.
Yes, we do. We do. Awesome. Cheryl, thank you so much for being our first guest on our first YouTube live podcast, Dr. Energy. It looks like we all got a memo about the color too. I love what we did.
This is a coordinated thing, didn't we?
We got to show off. We got to show off, right?
We
a little bit, right? We're on camera. Some of it, and it's okay to have, I think, a little bit of wanting to look good. I don't think there's a problem with that, right?
Put your best foot forward. Absolutely.
Right. And our color scheme worked really nicely. We should think about that. So that way we have it sort of like the screen isn't screaming up at us, right? Right. Thank you. So, this is fun. Thank you, Dr. Energy. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just like to close out the show by saying head on over to SherylPlouffe.com and you can connect with Cheryl over there. I think you can make some great connections with Cheryl, and she can help you get to where you want to go. And if you found this content valuable and maybe even hopefully a little bit entertaining, you could buy us a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/BU Network. We'd love to have a coffee with you.
Thank you. And I want to mention that Cheryl and I met at Cowie. And thanks to Cowie Networking for giving us the opportunity to actually make this connection.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me today. This was a blast. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ciao.
All right,
Ciao.
we're going to end the broadcast. We'll see you all soon.